Hey, this is Scott Bursick with Trophy Fish Outdoors, and today I want to do a video on planning your fishing trip. I don't know how many of you guys actually kind of plan for the day other than maybe just look at the weather, but how often have you gone and looked at where on the lake you want to fish and where the best places might be? Well, today I'm going to walk you through some methods that I use before I go out on trips, and especially taking the wind into account, because the wind can ruin a trip really quickly, but there's usually places on the lake you can go and get out of the wind or use the wind to your advantage. So we're going to talk about reading fishing charts, and we're going to talk about evaluating in a lake that you've never been to, and maybe one you've already been to, but you're trying to kind of figure out where to fish. So we'll go ahead and walk through that today. So as far as the charts go, if you've got a Garmin, you're probably going to look at Garmin charts and, for whatever brand you have. But there's some charts that I always use online. They're 100% free. They're pretty good charts, and it gives me an idea of where I'm going to go on the lake. And then I can use my Garmin chart while I'm on the water to, kind of fish the area that I'm looking at on this chart that I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and switch over to the screen here. So if you go to navionics.com, the chart viewer is 100% free. You don't have to be even logged in for the chart viewer to work. It just comes up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into Lake Ray Hubbard. And there's a reason why I'm going to choose Lake Ray Hubbard for this. This is a lake that I've fished a lot. And these are the charts that I used back in the day because I actually had a Lowrance unit and it had Navionics on it. So let me go ahead and zoom into the lake here. And one thing that you notice about Lake Ray Hubbard is that it doesn't have a whole heck of a lot going on contour wise. It's kind of a big flat mud hole for the most part. It appears that way anyway. It's deceiving. If we take that lake and compare it to let's see, what's a good one? Lake Ray Roberts. That's a great example. Look at the contours on Lake Ray Roberts. This lake is complex. There's a lot going on here. And, you've got all sorts of contours and stuff going on in this lake, all from the dam all the way up. This lake has got some crazy contours. And there's a way to narrow that down too. But let's go ahead and go back to Lake Ray Hubbard here. And from this level, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on here. But what I'm going to do is, if I'm going to plan a trip here, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the weather. So I'm going to go on to Wind Finder. And on Wind Finder, you can choose several options, and it shows the direction that the wind is going to be going. And I think what I have on here is, I think it's Saturday. Yeah. Saturday at 7 a.m. And it shows the direction the wind is going to be blowing. So, not real good coming from the northeast. That's kind of rare for this area. Not a great direction to be blowing for some of the fishing that I do on the lake. But if I wanted to kind of stay out of the super rough water, I could still kind of stay to this entire eastern side of the lake and have some protection. But, calm water doesn't mean that there's fish there. In fact, most of the time it's quite the opposite. Right now, catfish are biting real shallow as an example. So these shorelines over here are going to be awesome because that's the direction the wind's going to be blowing in. But anyway, I take a look at that, and that kind of helps me decide where on the lake I might want to fish. So if I click on the map, I can see that the direction, and I can see the wind speed. So 12 miles an hour. If you're in a kayak, it's not going to be fun. If you're on a regular boat, probably not going to be bad at all. So now that I know the direction that the wind is going to be blowing, I'm going to go back to my charts. And I'm probably going to not really worried about wind too much because I'm going to be fishing from a boat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in on the lake. And what I'm looking for on any lake is I'm looking for areas that look interesting. So let me give a couple of examples. So this is a marina that's right here. In fact, let me get my pointer out. So this is the marina right here, but this area right here is a large flat. And how do I know it's a large flat? Well, I've fished it 100 times. That's one way to know. But the other way is to look at the contours. So we can see by looking at the contours that up here on the top, we're about 6 feet deep. And then the closer the lines are together, the steeper the drop off is. So you'll see like this spot right here is almost a cliff. It goes from 9 feet down to 31 feet down here at the bottom. And you see that there's kind of a ridge that goes all the way around here. A little bit more of a gradual climb here, but then a sudden climb up into shallow water. Well, I can tell you before that I've been trolling through here on a kayak, and this entire ledge right here had hybrid bass and white bass just stacked up right on the edge of this thing. They were chasing bait that was being blown up into that shallow area. So considering that the wind is going to be coming from the northeast, blowing across this flat, and if I zoom back out, this is where the wind's going to come into play. So the wind is going to be coming this way. It's going to push bait right up this shallow ledge and into this shallow area. So this might be a good area to check out actually on Saturday at 7 a.m. And you can tell by the markers on here that these are fish areas. If I click on it and then go over the question mark, you'll see that it says it's a fishing spot, and then it gives some information about it. So these maps are really cool considering they're totally free. And there's a few fishing spots around here. And the reason is because same as before, we've got a bunch of shallow water right here, and it drops off with some ledges into an old pond. I've trolled this entire area, and this little point that sticks out right here is also really good for white bass. There's always a ton of them there. Another thing that's remarkable about Lake Ray Hubbard is the bridge, the I-30 bridge that crosses over the lake in a couple areas. So we've got this span right here, and then we also have this span right here that's close to Bass Pro Shops. And there's openings under the bridge, but the rest of this is riprap. It's all rock the whole way through. Well, once the water warms up in the summertime, you control these areas. Sorry, I'm clicking with my pointer and it's not doing what I want it to. You control this area of riprap. Troll about 2.5 miles an hour with lipless crankbaits or whatever you want to troll with that you catch white bass. And this whole bridge area right here is really, really good. But I'll tell you, there's a couple spots that are hot spots. And those are this spot right here where the shore kind of comes out, and you'll see there's a submerged culvert, and there's another one right over here. Both of these are hot spots. I almost always get bit there. So I'll turn around and go back and forth between these two spots. Another really good hot spot is where the water comes through the bridge. There's sort of a little hole right here on this corner, and you'll almost always see boats sitting here. In between the bridge and the buoys that come out. So this area is also really good. And again, it depends on the direction that the wind is blowing. There's also some pilings that are part of the railroad trestle. So there's a regular bridge, and then there's a railroad bridge that crosses, and the railroad trestle pilings are really good as well. But, you know, that kind of comes from experience fishing that lake. But, you know, anytime you have a bridge like this, that divides the lake and it has an opening, there's always going to be current coming through here. Find the downside of the current and fish that downside current. So if the wind is coming from the south, this north corner and this north corner are going to be really good fishing. You're going to see a lot of bait there, and you're going to see a lot of predators there too. So looking for areas with contour, you know, I can see a few spots that are pretty decent. This spot over here I know is pretty good. Again, a lot of contour. This is over by the power plant. A lot of contour over here too. Good areas to check. There's this series of ridges and humps. And if you zoom out a little bit on the lake, you'll see that, and maybe it was an old roadbed, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because you've got high spots and low spots. As you're cruising over this with your graph, especially up here, you're going to see about a 6-foot difference between the top of these little humps and in between, and then to the top of the next one. There are always fish in these gaps between the humps. Always. There's also some brush piles that people have put out. But I mean, it's a very interesting feature on what is an otherwise pretty flat lake. So some really good spots to fish there too. Really, when you look at the entire lake, there's a couple places that are optimal. That's this right up here at the top, because there is so much terrain in this area right here. There's some good area that's in here, although I've never really done as good as I have up in this area. And then down here near the dam, there's a couple of spots near the dam where there's a hump that comes up out of deep water. There's actually two of them, and the tops of these humps can be really decent too. I've known some big fish to be caught off of these humps. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at when I look at Ray Hubbard. But anyway, that's generally what I do if I'm going to be fishing a new lake for the first time. I definitely come and check out the charts. I look at the lake and study it and look at the weather, look at the wind, and then make my decision on where I'm going to go. If I'm fishing my home lake, Lake Tawakoni, I pretty much know where I'm going to go. You know, I can wake up that morning and take a look and decide where I want to launch. I'll look at the wind and see what the weather is going to look like. But for the most part, I know what to do. So I hope this helps. You know, some people may not have ever learned how to read a map or know about the contour lines. I was in the Army for 11 years, and, you know, we did use the maps with the terrain features and stuff. So, you know, you got to learn it at some time, right? Give me a buzz. You know, you can contact me through, you know, several different methods. You can send me an email, scott@trophy.fish. And let's take a trip. Let's go on a guided trip out on Lake Tawakoni and see if there's some other stuff I might be able to teach you while we fill the box full of fish. So thanks for watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and let me know down in the comments below if there's something else that you'd like me to talk about. There's another topic that you'd like me to go over. And if you like this format, I try to film out on the lake, but man, it's hard to get that camera going when I'm by myself and the fish are biting like crazy. I just need to get better at that. So more content coming soon. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.